The Sisters of St. Benedict were an essential part of the Sacred Heart Centennial celebration because they were the people who provided the education to the kids for all of those years. So for all of my teachers, Sister Emily, Sister Rochelle, Sister Lucille, Mrs. Taylor, Sister Helen, twice. Do you remember her tuning harmonica and the green little pump organ? Do you remember practicing for First Communion? Jennifer! Yeah! Vincent! Sister Cashmere, who taught me that there was a difference between a picture and a picture. One was Sandy Koufax, and the other you looked out from. Sister Gerard, Sister Bede, and poor Sister Adley had the boys twice. Who can ever forget Sister Bernarda? Sister Teresa, Sister Scholastica, Sister Blondina, Sister Alexine, Sister Emmanuel, Sister Carmela, Sister Victorine. Now they could teach music, and it was on key. And Sister Marguerite. To all of them I say, all of the things that I did that drove you crazy, I'm sorry. It is my contrition. To all of the things that I suffered from Sister Bernarda and Sister Helen, it wasn't me, it was the class behind me. I remember the jokes about smoking in the bathroom. I never once remembered smoking in the bathroom. Usually I kind of went brain dead after I had a cigarette. So it is that I learned the importance of the power and the strength of women from the Sisters of St. Benedict. I've got knuckles to prove it. But I can't tell you how much I respect them more today than ever because I had the opportunity to become a teacher. You cannot imagine the pain and suffering that they put up with from the kids that we worked. And for anybody who's not here and wants to say, well, I won't come back because of the sisters, because of all the silly rules, it was you. Look in the mirror. We owe an absolute debt of gratitude to the Sisters of Mount St. Benedict, and we have with us this evening and I forgot, Sister Rosemary. We have with us this evening somebody to represent and speak a little bit about the perspective from the Sisters of Mount St. Benedict, from East Grand Forks, class of 45, principal at Sacred Heart from 1968 to 1979. Please, a warm welcome for Sister Mary Jean Gust.
looking into that light, I can actually see too many faces. Oh, thank you. Okay, now I don't see the light. Anyway, when I first walked into here and I saw that big plaque, 1912, I remembered walking into Sacred Heart High School, the old building, in 1941. Anyway, as I start talking about the contributions of our sisters, I have to go back to the sisters from Duluth, because they were the first ones who began Catholic education here in East Grand Forks. If I sound a little nervous, I am a little nervous, okay? And it was in 1895 that Mother Scholastica from Duluth was asked by Father Hendricks to come to East Grand Forks. And they purchased a 3-story building. It was located on the borderline of Minnesota and North Dakota. And it was to be used as a combined hospital, school, and convent. And in one document, it stated that the property was purchased for $2,500. Isn't that wonderful? And the school was opened on the first floor of the building. The hospital was on the second floor. And something tells me the sisters probably lived on the third floor. I don't know. Then the building was sold in 1899, and the proceeds went to the hospital in Bemidji, where the Benedictines also had a hospital. Now, records are a little bit misleading, and some say that the school was named St. Joseph after the hospital, but it could have been Sacred Heart from the very beginning. I don't know if I'll go into all of this that I had written here, but the parish church was completed in 1894, and it was destroyed by fire. And when Father Hendricks visited with the sisters from Duluth who were teaching there, saying that they should start a building fund, one of the sisters suggested that they have a St. Patrick's Day program, along with music, all kinds of readings, whatever. And so the sisters prepared a program of choruses, fancy drills, short plays, individual readings, and other features so that every pupil in the school could have a part. Now, I don't know how many students there were. Anyway, as is the custom here at Sacred Heart, the parish sewing circle made all the costumes. The pastor had all of the tickets printed free of charge, and the men in the parish sold them. And the sale of the tickets was so large that no hall in East Grand Forks could hold the crowd that was expected. So Father Hendricks rented the Opera House in Grand Forks, and saying that the management would get 30% of the proceeds and the rest would be for the building fund. So on that evening, when everybody was at the Opera House in Grand Forks and the children were ready to come out, Father Hendricks appears on the stage and says, "The program has to be canceled." You probably read that in some of the stories. Anyway, it had to be canceled because the pastor in Grand Forks apparently had not been contacted. So he contacted his bishop, and that bishop contacted Father Hendricks and said it cannot take place here in Grand Forks at the Opera House. So there were some clerical procedures that had not been properly taken care of. Anyway, the hard work of the sisters and the children was not in vain. The program took place the second week of June in the newly built church, someplace in there. Anyway, what is so important about all of this is that these sisters were hardworking, resourceful, energetic, and true educators in every sense of the word. Then the school apparently continued in the basement of the newly built church. But in 1900, the Sisters of Duluth withdrew, and the mission year was closed. So apparently there was no Catholic school here from 1900 until 1912. That seems to be a vacuum in some of the history that I've been able to come up with. Anyway, some of the sisters who had taught here were then asked to come back. So when the school began in 1912, it was again the Benedictine sisters from Duluth who came. And they were teaching here. They were also teaching in Crookston. So there were a few areas that they had started in the Catholic schools. Then, when our community at Mount St. Benedict was formed, established, on May 4th, 1919, that many of these sisters remained, but there were some sisters who went back to Duluth. And so the sisters who remained were the pioneers of our community in Crookston. And some of those sisters were my teachers when I was here in high school. They were sturdy women, German, I believe, and so, good health, strong personalities, and everything like that. So from 1919 until the late 1990s, according to what I could figure out, at least 80 years, the Sisters from the Mount taught in either grade or high school, served as principals, music teachers, art teachers, librarians, bookkeepers, playground and lunchroom supervisors, or served in some form of parish ministry. Little did I know when I came to Sacred Heart High School as a freshman in 1941 that someday I would be among the number of our Crookston Benedictine sisters who had the privilege of teaching either in the grade or high school, serving in administrative positions or in some form of parish ministry. During these early years, the grade and high school was staffed by sisters. There weren't any lay teachers. Now, I'm not sure. I would imagine there was a sports program. There were male coaches. So there were some lay staff members. But it was sometime during the 60s that lay people began to be part of our school staffs. And I believe that there were more than 30 sisters living in the convent at any one time. And I did not live in the original part, but when I was here as principal, I was in the newer part. But I loved the old part, the woodwork and everything like that. It was a beautiful place. Along with the sisters who taught in the classroom, several sisters taught music to individual students. And for a short time, my younger sister and I were in Sister Columba's music class. She was an excellent teacher, strict, and demanded the best from us. And we must have met her expectations because we were in our first recital that year. I believe it was in 1942. Recently, I visited with Sister Frances Sullivan. She was Sister Madonna at that time. And she recalled her years of teaching her at Sacred Heart while I was the grade school principal. And she told me that one year she had a third grade class who, according to her, were the most creative and artistic class she had had. She said that math and science weren't their strengths, but they could write plays, sing, play the piano, and perform so well for others. Two of her students were excellent piano players, one being Julie Meyerchen, Julie Mark. She couldn't remember the name of the other talented student, but she spoke so highly of the students she had. And actually, I believe it was that group that would watch the progressive stages of the metamorphosis of the butterfly. And lo and behold, the monarch greeted them on my birthday, so they named it Mary Jean. Now that was being pretty creative. They couldn't keep it though because it had spread its wings and it had to be let go. Sometimes students felt that the sisters were too strict. Maybe some were, but we have to remember their background. Some arrived from Duluth with an excellent work ethic, and their intentions to help each student achieve his or her very best were a priority. For other students, strict discipline and thorough teaching have been viewed as advantages of their parochial school education. As one student said so well, you were free to learn, but you weren't free to goof off. I'm sure that each one here present can recall one or more of the sisters who taught them. Yes, the academics, sciences, math, history, religion, and so on were important. But more important were the lifelong values that were instilled in the hearts of all. This either directly or indirectly, almost by osmosis. I fondly remember Sister Mary Thomas during my high school years. She had a great influence on my life during those days, and when I was in various educational assignments as a community member, she continued to encourage and support me. I remember the fun we had with Sister Mary Joseph, who taught us girls square dancing. She felt the girls should have some kind of activity while the boys were at sports. Watching her dance was delightful as the yards of material of her habits swirled around. I realized they were human and enjoyed life. In addition to teaching, the sisters trained altar servers, worked hard in their classroom, cleaning and decorating, even painting during the earlier years. Before and during the time I was in high school, the top floor of the convent was used for classrooms for the lower grades. So the back entry at the convent was very well traveled and had to be cleaned daily. And I believe that was the responsibility of the sisters. So they were also doing maintenance work. How many sisters from Mount St. Benedict taught at Sacred Heart? We have several lists of the names of the sisters and the years they taught at Sacred Heart. In counting their names, there were a total of 147 individual sisters who lived and worked at Sacred Heart. Now, at one time, when I entered, we were pretty close to 300 sisters. So when you take a look at 147, it was like half of our community that was involved here at one time or another. In breaking this down according to their ministries, I discovered there were 13 excellent cooks who provided the sisters with meals. 6 who were music teachers, namely Sisters Carmela Buckley, Columba, Gertrude, Cecilia Baudry, Kathleen, and Victorine. And one sister, Sister Renata, who provided home health care for the Caribou family, and the remaining 128 who taught in one or both the grade and high school, served as school principals at different times of their assignments. By the way, Sister Carmela recently celebrated her 80th anniversary as a professed Benedictine sister. She still remembers my brother Tim and his singing ability in the operettas and other musical productions she directed during the high school years. Then there was the time that sisters were aging, retiring, there were more lay staff members, and it finally got to the point where only Sister Basil, Marguerite, and Germana were here at Sacred Heart. During the flood of 1997, and for a period of time, they provided assistance to many in need. The historic buildings, Sacred Heart Convent and the first grade and high school, have to be demolished, along with the other two schools. The sisters then lived in a small home, much smaller in contrast to the convent, which had housed so many sisters and guests over many years. Sister Basil served Sacred Heart for many, many years as an outstanding math teacher and an excellent high school principal. She was also a very good cook and a great friend to many in the parish. She retired to Mount St. Benedict Monastery perhaps around sometime in 2003, and she died shortly thereafter on April 25th, 2004. Sister Germana continued her ministry of gentle presence at Sacred Heart until 2005. As of now, Sister Marguerite continues to provide a Benedictine presence at Sacred Heart in whatever ministry she is involved in. The influence of the sisters in my life, in our lives, is what has continued to help make Sacred Heart School the great educational institution it is and has been over these many years. You are here these days to celebrate a centennial, 100 years of Catholic education, an education that had very meager beginnings in rather meager facilities without the educational tools and expertise we have today. Technology has enabled you to move forward in ways that the first sister teachers had no knowledge of, but they taught values, good attitudes, good work ethics, and challenged their students to use their gifts to succeed in their chosen careers. The commitment and dedication of the Benedictine sisters through the years is what will always be remembered throughout your lifetime and in the years to come. They established a foundation, not of stone, but of a spiritual nature that cannot always be named. They worked hard, they prayed daily for the strength and courage to fill out their responsibilities. Now, how many students did our sisters teach? I saw something from Michelle Kraft, an email that she sent, and I said something like, there have been something like 24,000 students who have been taught, who have gone through here. How many of you here present were in some way influenced by one or more of these sisters? How many of you can say exactly what this sister taught you or helped you to understand during your years of education? I know that if I asked you to just say something, your responses would be very varied. But each sister you were connected with in some way, whether it was grade school, high school, study hall, you name it, influenced you in some way. In closing, we are here today, but before I go through that, I just want to say it's been such a pleasure to see many of the families whose students were in the grade school when I was principal here, and to see the students and to see the life and the beauty and the joy that is in your lives. It touches me deeply. It's just wonderful to be here. So In closing, we're here today not only because of the sacrifices and the struggles that the Benedictine sisters who were pioneers experienced, but also because of the examples they set for us. And here I want to interject one more thing. The sacrifices of the parents of the students and the support that you as parents have given the sisters. I could name or think of any number of families who struggled paying their tuition. In my own family, 7 from our family graduated here from Sacred Heart High School. And 3 of my brothers have died who graduated from here. Tim is still living, and my youngest brother did not come here to high school. He went to Bonania. But anyway, our parents sacrificed a lot. We lived out in the country. You as parents sacrificed a lot. Your families were large, so many sacrifices you supported the sisters, and that's what helped us to become who we are, to be able to do what we were called to do. Because of the sisters, because of you, the wholesome spiritual environment at Sacred Heart Schools continues to nurture, to nourish, to educate, and to form the minds and hearts of all who come through these doors, namely the students, the staff, parents, and visitors. As Sister Joyce Rupp says in this short but simple poem, who we are, how we are, always touches into other lives. We may think we are alone, apart, separate, but not so. Our positive or negative energy connects, unites, draws, or repels. Always we touch, others, always. May God bless you, and thank you for having me and our sisters as guests this evening, or whatever days they have been able to come. Thank you.